Hey everyone, this is devlog number 5, and I'm going to talk to you about some of the progress I made today. So yesterday we spoke about how I was beginning to group stories together into different types of stories that go together, like creation myths, myths around divine conflict, age of heroes, that kind of stuff. Well, I took some of those ideas today and started putting them together in terms of what would I want to do if these were different steps in the game, and what do I want to explore in those steps. So I've got 5 which map out to the 5 steps from before, and I've sort of split those up into 3 phases. The first is around establishing the world, the second is around populating that world, and the last is like resolving that world, resolving conflict along the way. I've also sort of split this between the mythical world, so the places where these stories are set. So this could be where gods exist, where spirits exist, where ancestors can interact with the world. And the real world, which is something more tangible, more physical. But again, that could still be quite magical in nature. And it's sort of a mix between the story world and the world where those stories are told. So just to really quickly go over some of the ideas. For example, in the creation myths section, I want the main gameplay takeaway there is establishing the tone and like overall broad setting. So, is this a fantasy world? Is this ancient, more modern? Is it science fiction? Is it quite realistic? But also establish some of the major characters. Like if I was going to tell a story about Greek mythology, it would be Zeus. Or the creator or something like that. And in the real world, that is the also first steps of establishing the landscape and the laws of the world. Like, does the sun go up and down every day? Is there seasons? Do we all live on the back of flying turtles? Establishing the base setting so that we can build both the myths and the world at the same time. And that sort of continues as you go down, for having the age of mythical beings, so establishing more minor characters and the major themes of the world. So if water was a big theme, you'd have more minor characters representing different aspects of water. And coincidentally, in the real world, what natural resources exist? What do the people think holds great value to them as a society? How does their culture reflect these major themes we explored from these minor characters? And I went about that the entire way. In the populate the world section here, I've been thinking more about, now that you've got a base blueprint, how do you flavor it with something interesting? So what are the main forces in conflict? What are the main emotional ties? Both in your stories and in your, say, factions or groups or people who live in this world. Is there different people in the same city, for example, who hold conflicting views? Or is there perhaps a difference between one city on one corner of the world and another city elsewhere? Likewise, in this Age of Heroes, we'll see how this goes still. I'm not sold on it completely. The idea of what do your main characters think about humanity? How does divine power flow from the mythical world into the real world and escalate some tension just to make, again, it's a bit of a story. So you need some sort of conflict in the story. And again, that's reflected on, who holds the power, what traditions exist, what is the history. And then with Fall of Magic, at the end, why are things different? What has changed? How does this resolve all the conflict that's grown? And where does this start as a conflict? How does this establish the current setting for the real world? So it's almost like 2 parallel streams that build off each other over time. This mythical world is almost telling its own story in and of itself. So start with an introduction. Where did people come from? What is the main conflict? What is the call to action? How does that escalate? How does that resolve? And using that to answer questions about your real world that you're establishing, like what is the cause and effect of these stories on the landscape, or conversely, what things in the landscape do people tell stories about? I think that's where I'm at the moment. Bit of a quick one today. I'll keep thinking a bit more about the main goals of each of these phases and see if I can turn that into how do you actually achieve those goals next time. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you later.